was just gonna pull up the agenda. Do you have one printed out, Scott?
Yeah.
Is there anything like specific on there that I'm missing? Or?
CPC review, CPC pre-applications for old business, new businesses, new projects, demo applications.
Okay, just remind me.
Yeah.
First thing is the minutes. Did Tim circulate
Yes,
the
he
minutes?
did, and then Margot sent corrections.
Okay. Did anybody else see anything in terms of that for corrections? Did you see anything else?
My name got misspelled in one spot. Other than that,
Yeah.
I think our corrections were fine.
Okay. Well, that sounds good. Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion approved.
Second.
Right, all in favor?
Aye.
Right. So moved. Thank you. So next thing, what do we got? Old business? What
Old
did they put on
business
there?
is a CPC review.
Oh, okay, right. So I didn't make the last meeting. We have another meeting coming up, and I would say the big takeaway is like the commission needs to make send a memo of support for the projects if we do
Oh, yeah.
support them, which we already talked about.
Yeah.
So couple meetings back, we talked about some of the projects that were coming up for CPC funding, which included the Peter Miller
Collection indexing
Collection.
from the Historical Commission.
Mm.
Yeah.
through Historic Society. They were looking for money for that.
A society, yeah.
The Museum of Industrial Heritage
Mhm.
was looking for money
Yep.
for a project.
Yep.
What was the other one? The Fairgrounds was looking for some funding for rebuilding the cattle barns.
Mm-hmm.
And so we reviewed those, it wasn't 2 months ago, I guess, right? I think.
Mhm.
Anyway, so they want to we're going to have our final vote on that in March. So I'll write a memo just saying that we supported that at our meetings. It's not, we're not voting to approve or deny the project at all. We're just saying that we support it and that it has historical significance.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I know, as you know, last month, Athena was here. Oh, here's Margaret. Hey, buddy. Welcome.
Hi.
You didn't miss much. We approved the minutes. I talked about some of the CPC stuff, and the big takeaway is that writing a memo in support for the CPC from our commission, so they have that on file.
Okay.
There's a little, basically a note saying that we looked at it at our meetings and we found the projects to be worthy of historical significance.
The ones that are applied.
Yeah, it was like the Peter Miller collection, the cow barn restoration, the project at the Museum of Industrial Heritage,
Uh-huh.
that kind of deal.
Yep.
And then I was just gonna go over the letter from Athena.
Good.
So that was sent out today.
You signed it.
Yes, I signed it.
Hi. Yeah, do you remember that? I forgot for now. Are you official?
Not yet.
Not yet.
So anyway, as you guys remember, the last meeting Athena was here from the town. Looking for, they're working on a S&P grant. Let me just read this. Reapplication for funding to update our community-wide historic property survey. Dear Eric, as Greenfield's Preservation Planning Arm, the Historical Commission lends its full support to your proposal to update our historical resources survey. The commission has discussed and provided input into the project. We concur with the realistic goal of documenting approximately 140 selected cultural and architectural resources and updating these in accordance with MHC survey standards and methodology. The commission fully endorses the goal to identify cultural resources associated with the history of the minority, social, and cultural groups and individuals that may have played a role in Greenfield's history, as well as documenting additional assets from more recent decades. We also concur with ensuring the full documentation of the city's institutional buildings, schools, and bridges, completion of our area forms or streetscape forms, outlining and identifying the extensive pattern of residential development which occurred in the mid-19th century workers and middle-class housing, and late 19th century and 20th centuries, and updating existing documentation of, quote, the Meadows, the original, quote, Green River District, and the, quote, Green River Industrial Heritage Area, which includes River, Mead, and Deerfield Streets. As the list of abandoned buildings in Greenfield is significantly outdated, updating our historical survey to bring new information to the existing inventory forms with special regard to threatened and abandoned buildings will especially assist us in our work for the city. We are already seeing abandoned industrial buildings significant to Greenfield's past being demolished. There is hope to restore and reuse abandoned buildings of historical significance. We need to update the inventories of such properties. Updating the survey will further assist the Historical Commission and the city in guiding its future growth and development. This will help establish the foundation for developing and adopting a Greenfield preservation plan and potentially lay the groundwork for designating a local historic district. The Commission has been promoting a proactive approach to, quote, heritage tourism as a planning tool. An updated historical property survey will help foster the use of historic tax credits for the rehabilitation of historic structures. The Historical Commission strongly believes that accurate and thorough documentation of Greenfield's historical resources is a significant step to preserving Greenfield's past, present, and future. One of our commission members, Margot Jones, will volunteer to assist you in her role as a local project coordinator. As you know, Margot worked on our first comprehensive historical property survey and will be an invaluable liaison for the Historical Commission on this exciting project. Sincerely, John Facilio, Chair, Greenfield Historical Commission. So that's the letter, and that is off.
Good.
Right now. Yep. Marta, do you want any input to that? Or did I say it all?
Yeah, the actual application that Athena put together is extremely comprehensive and detailed, and she did more than just homework. She really dug deep and found some new sources of material, and
Super.
I can't imagine it won't be funded, but it better be funded.
Yeah, good.
We really need it.
Good to have.
Be a big source of support for everything we're going to be doing. So she should be commended for sure.
I think it's super to have us kind of finally in concert with the town on something like this. And I think it's mutually beneficial for establishing a local historic district for sure.
Yeah, if we ever can do that, that would be
Well, this would be an important piece of that.
yeah.
First,
That puzzle for sure. And also I think the other part is that worker housing, blue collar worker housing, Mead Street, Mill Street, Deerfield Street, places like that, where people aren't necessarily looking, those are an important part of the fabric of the town.
Right.
We talk about the tap and die and the impact that kind of housing had. So it's nice to see that represented there.
Yeah, I still haven't figured out what schools they think have been abandoned
Or tore down.
and which we have.
Schools?
Yeah.
the one that does, the one
Well,
that
this
is
is-
sitting on
Right,
top of.
that's the one. So now there'll be a line in the sand,
That's
no
it.
more.
Yeah.
I think that must be it. Well, Green River might.
Yeah, that's
Well,
sad.
there was one on off of Deerfield Greenfield Street. It was.
Correct.
uh,
On Washington Street, right?
Mm.
Yep. You hardly know that's even there.
That's now
I mean, it's a, I would
child,
say a daycare or something.
right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, you guys want it, yes.
Head Start,
Yep.
yeah, so that's still being used, anyway. Right.
Yeah, I mean, there was a school on Chapman Street a long time ago for a short time, somewhere.
Huh,
And it's somewhere you can find it I read it somewhere. Not sure exactly whereabouts, but
it's still there?
no, long gone.
Oh,
There
And
was
that
a
school
school.
they converted into condos on,
yeah,
Near
Pierce. right out
Foster's.
here,
The Allen Street
Yeah.
School. Yep.
Yeah, there was a schoolhouse on Lovers Lane.
Really?
Actually,
Oh,
the
yeah,
house is still there. Yeah.
it is still there?
The house it's a house now, but
Oh,
the foundation and the building is still there. Yeah.
wow.
anyway, so,
Very cool. Oops. Let me see what else. Go through my emails. Do I have any? Oh, did you want to talk about the demolition delay
That's under new business.
on
So
the new business?
are we in new business?
that's all you had under is CPC, unless there's any more on that. That was all you had.
No, that's
Old
the
business.
status.
So we have new projects and demo applications. So I guess it's
Well, actually, there's one other old business item I'd rather bring up first.
Yeah, go ahead.
Which is, we met with the mayor, that's the wrong term. I have been hoping that the old library, soon to be old library, will remain occupied in some way, shape or form, so that there'll be a presence there and it'll make sure that nothing, if something breaks, it'll get taken care of. And so there was a meeting between the mayor, the building inspector, me, and in my capacity as volunteer architect, not as GHC representative, but and then the current librarian, executive director. What's her official title?
Not sure. Director?
Director, right?
Seems right.
And it sort of set the table for the building inspector doing some further research and for the mayor to figure out which parties might move in temporarily. And then, and basically it's okay for offices, open to the public on the ground floor, but not any public related offices above that. Because even though it's a very complicated situation, given that the handicap accessibility is limited,
Yeah.
it's grandfathered, and so you wanna maintain that,
Continuity.
right,
Yes, I
certificate of
get you.
occupancy.
That is super important. I think I get you. It is
Yeah.
super. Right.
And hopefully, they're also applying for a Mass Preservation Projects Fund in March to do a full-fledged feasibility study with a space, studying the space, studying the code, studying what it would cost to bring it up to full compliance. So that'll be great, but that's like 2 years worth of work, and then there's how do you fund the construction, and it's kind of out in the distance, and we want to have somebody there.
Okay.
for
So,
them.
well, if I can ask, do you have any sense of what the mayor is thinking? Like, is anybody moving in there?
She probably has ideas, but she wasn't.
She not forthcoming with concrete.
Well, what she said was she wanted us to maintain the option of selling the building,
Okay.
because she just needs to maintain that option.
Okay. But they don't have any plans for anybody to move in there?
Not, she's saying there's a huge need, that they're crunched at the town hall and they're paying money for offices elsewhere.
Oh, yeah.
Why
Yeah,
do that
sure.
if you've got this
Yeah.
building that you
Yes.
own? So I'm sure there's a lot of options being considered. And she was sort of mentioning some, but I don't think they were full-fledged plans.
because
This
it's
is a lot of money.
It could.
Yeah.
Well, if you leave the building empty, you're just asking for trouble. If you leave it empty or you mothball it, a disaster's going to happen, and so it makes sense to keep occupation in it. And I'm sure there are uses that require minimal renovation, just generic office spaces with cubicle farms if possible.
yeah, I mean,
But,
couldn't just
It's already wired with, with the GSEC and all that kind of stuff, so that's.
Well, I mean, clearly the mayor is aware of the need to keep it occupied, right?
Right.
And
She totally concurs. Everybody agrees. That's important. And
we're looking. It's just probably 4 or 5 months away.
I know
That
it's tomorrow, essentially.
essentially,
Yeah.
pretty soon.
So plans need to get.
Can't they just have somebody have their office in there?
They are concerned with indoor air quality in the basement, the ground floor. So there's a lot of sort of follow-up steps that need to be taken. And
Well,
not sure who's lighting a fire under who. So.
Well, it's good you had the meeting, and so what's the next steps with that? I mean, is there?
Yeah.
Was
I don't
there-
know what the next
Was there a plan to say, hey, let's get together in a month? And
No, but there should be. I mean, I did notes
I
from it.
could send her an
and
email, and why don't I send her an email and say, hey, this came up at our meeting, and we'd like to follow up.
Yeah.
Because we're concerned about the integrity of the structure and whatnot. Okay.
Yeah. She has a lot on her plate.
I would say,
Well, as always,
I would say,
it comes with the gig.
So, but we want to keep it not too far in the back burner.
No.
yeah. So,
And I will
I'll
follow
bring
up
the
with
loose.
Mark because the code, you can dance around the code issues and, oh God, give yourself a headache very quickly.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
to
complicated.
me,
Yeah.
that having, I think of elevators as a huge thing. You're an architect, right? So, but think of elevators, and you have an elevator that, if it's running all the time, it can be old and they still run, but as soon as it stops running, it's derelict.
That's it. Yeah.
That's it.
That's it. It's no longer legal.
Right. And in a lot of way, that's what killed a lot of upper story downtown stuff, was because there was no access.
Yeah.
Correct.
So it would be more than foolish to let it sit idle
Mm-hmm.
for multiple reasons. Yeah.
Right.
Except the fact that it's a national historic landmark,
I know, which I really
Yeah.
made.
which is really why
Point
we're getting into it. Yeah, and I'm sure she gets that. So
So, then,
the
well,
demo.
the demolition delay bylaw, I told myself I was gonna really look over, but I
Well, I mean,
Well, my
You
printer,
know what I'm
my printer wasn't running. I was gonna print it.
I
Dave's got it. What do you
I
think,
read it.
Dave? Any thought? And what you see? You got a highlighter on it.
Yeah.
That's a good
I was
start.
gonna do that.
I did my
See?
homework.
It always feels good when you feel like somebody else was thinking the.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't really know, what I was reading it for, what I was looking for,
Sure.
but I was interested to see that kind of the maximal thing that could happen if somebody wanted to demolish something and we didn't think that was a good idea. The maximal thing is that we could delay it for 1 year.
Right.
2 6
Right.
month extension?
2 6 months.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the initial thing is 6 months, and then there's some language in there about, there's an expectation, but I didn't see any requirement that the property owner would be kind of looking for a good solution to,
Right.
sell it to somebody who would maintain it or do
Okay.
something to maintain the
A better
historical character, let's say.
Yeah.
So there's some language that there would be an expectation, but I didn't read anything that kind of required people to do that,
No.
Um,
Yeah.
So it was an interesting
Correct. Well, I mean, that is the way I read, I mean, that is the
Yeah.
fact. The other thing I read in here is I am now even more mystified why we get demolition applications for garages that need to be
Or
approved
swimming
before
pool.
people can tear them down.
Yeah.
There is nothing in here that supports that. Nothing. And I don't know where it started or how long ago it started. I remember when I was on zoning board, we would get letters on special permits and everything. But I don't know how it got to that point because, a garage or a pool is not a significant building according to this definition. So how did that evolve? You know?
Yeah, well, I mean, it used to be that we weren't notified ever about anything.
Right.
Okay.
Ever. About anything. It was very simple. That was the policy. And then we kind of complained that, hey, what the heck, we're not finding out. So after a little bit of conversation, I think that it evolved to the point where they just notify us about everything as a matter of. Yeah, right. And I think it's.
I mean,
Well, because I
I understand, yeah.
I think that it's they are deferring to they're deferring to us. They just they defer to us and say, well, here, that way they feel like they've done their due diligence.
Yeah.
And say, oh, John, you go check it out. Oh, yep.
They have
Yeah, that deck doesn't
Well,
look historic. Thank you.
Well, the way I see it is we are employing a professional building inspector and a professional director of planning, and by now they should know what is historical and what isn't.
Right.
And this is crazy. Is that it shouldn't happen because when I hear that things are actually getting quote hung up waiting for you to go see a site, that's so far out of what this ordinance permits, it's insane. And I'd like to see that corrected before it keeps going on. It's crazy.
Well, in the language too, it has some specific language about photographs of the property in question
Yeah.
being submitted.
Right.
Which would mean you could just review the photographs and not go.
I mean,
But your
there's
larger
a definition
point,
for
yeah,
significant building.
there is.
Which means the only thing we should be seeing are things that meet the definition of significant building, and that's actually why this survey is even more important because that's how we produce our list of significant buildings.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And but until that's done, I hope you're still not getting notices of garages and swimming pools being torn
I
down.
haven't gotten any lately. I haven't gotten any
There's
lately.
600 properties now identified.
Yeah.
So they just need to cross-check with that.
There you go. So there's a process, but we're trying, we're just kind of taking the
Yeah,
on approach.
They're making John do it instead of.
Yeah, and
That's
maybe,
right.
maybe it's political. I don't know.
There is a language in here that says, like, what the definition of a significant
Mhm.
building is on the first page of it. And it's, of course, something that's the Massachusetts Historical Commission or the National Register of Historic Places. That makes something, by definition, a significant building. And then it's the last kind of category is a building submitted by the commission to the town
Mhm.
council and approved by the town council that basically says it's a significant
So
property.
It's
So
So
contributing.
that would be submitting
That's
like
where the list,
the
once
survey.
it's done, becomes the comprehensive
Yeah.
list in the town until it's added to.
exactly. But right now, I think, unless something like that has been done previously,
Yeah, I mean, it should
Well,
be.
there is one.
Yeah.
There's such a document.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it exists.
It's on the Macris website. You have to actually put in the address.
Well, I think the
Okay,
point
yeah.
is really
So
for me
it is.
that the building inspector should be able to determine whether something is historically significant or nearly, like if it's like kind of close or something like, then maybe
Yes.
then
Yeah.
send it to me.
Yes.
Right.
Right,
Yes.
but like a pressure treated deck from 2003, know,
So,
Is that
I'm not-
a real?
I'm not.
Is that a real?
Those are a real example. Or swimming pool from 1975. You know, like what?
that's like busy work.
But
Why are they-
this is why.
And I really, I mean, I don't want to beat up on them. I feel
No,
like
but-
Yeah.
I feel like it evolved that way, and for them it's just easier to just like there's a rubric, there's a checklist,
Yeah,
Mhm.
and we're on that, and there's
Yeah.
an X,
right.
Yeah.
and unfortunately sometimes it seems like we're like we're chaining ourselves to the bucket loader, and we're preventing stuff from getting
Bingo.
away. But it's not really the case. And the reality is that anytime there is anything that's actually kind of historic, they kind of don't tell us.
Well, like exactly.
Or-
So
yeah,
so
already
tailors
gone.
so tailors can
Mhm.
reface their front, right, which has been that way for decades without anything happening. Or if somebody decided to vinyl side a building downtown, we wouldn't get notice of it. That's my point.
With their own-
But yet, if somebody wants to demolish a garage, we get notice of it.
Yeah.
It's backwards.
Yeah.
To say the least. Yeah.
Mhm.
So hopefully we can get that communicated and stop kind of the craziness.
Yeah, well, I'll reach out to the building inspector and I will let him know what we feel about it.
I mean, you just have to refer them to the ordinance, which is what we need to do is go by the rules.
This
Do
is
we
true.
know if the rug manufacturing was
Well, so
in this
so we-
property survey?
I don't know that, but as you know, they came here and
Right,
they spoke to us.
right,
And there's no doubt that the building is historically significant,
right.
not just because of age, but also because of the what was done there, the manufacturing that was done there, etc. And we told them that we were not going to stand in the way of the demolition because we felt that the building was in horrible shape. It was really beyond repair in many ways, and progress is that somebody was going to be income producing business is going to go there, and as it is, it's a hazard and a liability all over the place. And it's their money. They're not looking for historic tax credits to tear down or something like that. And I asked them because I wanted to go and tour the place
Right,
because we talked because I it's pretty cool and it's a pretty interesting building for sure. And
yeah,
I'm very curious about the layout of it. So I've been kind of emailing him a little bit about trying to set up a time. And so I did ask him about, he wanted to know if he needed to come back. And I said, well, nothing's changed, and I asked him if he had applied for a demolition permit.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, my son engineer went in August. So it made it sound like they had already applied for a demolition permit.
But you didn't get them.
I have not gotten a notice yet, and so and I'm not trying to anything, but and I haven't had because I am actually working full time and whatnot, so with the life and breathing and stuff, so I did not have a chance to call the building inspector and say, hey, is this going on before the meeting? But I will tomorrow.
Yeah,
And because this was just like yesterday or whatever, so I will find out whether they did actually do that and what the turnaround time is with that. I mean, I think on a project that's that big, that's a lot of demolition.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of dumpsters.
right.
That's a lot of big machinery. That's a lot of dust.
Probably some hazmat surveys.
Probably
have to
some
happen.
right, exactly. It's not a garage.
Right.
It's not a pressure treated deck
Mhm.
that you're going to take down in an afternoon. That's a big deal
Mhm.
for sure. I mean, even we can
Yeah.
ascertain that. So there's probably a lot more stuff to learn.
I think in a better world, we would ask them. I don't know.
Yeah, well, and this is a good case study looking at this in regard to the demolition delay ordinance, because if we were to say, you know what, we want you to, the whole point of that would be so that they would come up with a better solution.
Right.
The only reason that I would be interested to put a demolition delay on the project would be to be like, yeah, dude, can you come up? Do you think there's a way that you could do what you want, but yet save the building or save part
Or
of the
preserve some features, or make a a
Right.
monument park, which is what they talked about in the meeting.
Correct, and he was
they were willing to do something.
he was willing
Yeah.
to do that, and I felt like that was a step in the right
If
direction.
somebody wanted to save the cupola, I think there are people who might be interested.
Cupola,
There might be some people interested in some of the architectural pieces on the building.
absolutely, and so then we end up becoming like a liaison for architectural salvage or something like. That's not really what we do either.
Correct, right.
The last time we did that, somebody gave them away. Okay, somebody gave away the doorknobs.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
that's not our business. As much as I hate to see it get all chopped up. Anyway, but the point of having the demolition delay is so that a person could come up with a solution that doesn't involve demolition, right? So if you look at the Greenfield Recorder building when that deal was happening, and I was pretty emphatic about trying to keep that, even if it was only just that facade of the building. But we can't really force them to do it, but I think the best we can do is try to say, let's come up with a compromise where you acquiesce that there's historic features that are important to the town, and you throw us a bone and say, we're gonna try to keep this facade, even if there's nothing behind it, so that when I look down the alley, I'm like, yeah, that looks kind of like old timey, I like that.
Yeah,
or
or
something.
at a minimum document the building before they.
Right, they were gonna put a kiosk with some signage
Yeah,
and something like that. Because, I feel a little bit, I don't want the building has been empty for years. Let's be honest. The Rug building, super historic, they did a lot of cool stuff there, I love it. It's been empty for years, it's been for sale for years. The guy that bought it so that he could turn it into storage units.
Right.
right.
And nobody wants to rent that place as a storage unit because it's like Candyman's palace. It's creepy. It's all chopped up. It's not. I mean, I'm a lover of old, decrepit things, but you want to rent a storage place, you want to be able to drive up.
Clean and safe, yeah.
Exactly. Not covered in lead paint. Right. The bats are coming to get you. It's like, and that's the reality that we live in. So the guy tried to run a business. He tried to run it as a storage place, and it did not work. And that's how this guy kind of came in, and he told us that he was actually thinking about just, doing the storage and keeping the space because there's loading docks and yada yada, but there's multiple levels. There's there's just a lot of things about it that are like wicked prohibitive. So I understand as a business person why they'd be like, yeah, this is not conducive to a business plan for storage, and I get it. There's like 1,000 gables on the thing. Every time you look at it, you're like, wait, there's another one coming out that way?
I want to re-roof that one.
Yeah, I roofing it alone.
There is something interesting in the ordinance where it's like, essentially, putting one of these delays is just essentially costing somebody money, right?
Yes.
Right.
And so it's kind of like it's a fine by another name,
Yeah, it's punitive.
and for a small project, maybe the equivalent expense of a 6-month delay matters, but for something big that we maybe really cared about, like the cost of a 1-year delay won't stop someone. So it's almost like this only would work for smaller things, but for something really big, this, if I were a developer and I wanted to knock something down, I would just calculate that cost of that weight into there, and then I would knock it down.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to do about that, but it's just something I was thinking about when reading it, and
Well, these ordinances are derived out of state law. They're
Yeah.
they're not unique per se to Greenfield.
Sure.
They're just a derivation out of what's in Mass state law.
yeah,
Mass produced.
Right.
in
We
every
can't
town.
change it a lot.
yeah.
If there was a way where I could come back to the developer of Rug and say, I've got an idea, or did you think about doing this, or kind of maybe, how about an alternative thing? It sounded like we asked him about that. I feel like we did some probing about that, and he did look into doing it, but ultimately, yeah, it's not really realistic to try to do that, and the only point of enacting it would be to
to really,
punish them.
or really say, it'll be cheaper for you to do it
Yeah.
than have this delay, right?
Yeah.
So it's
So anyway, that's
an
what
interesting consideration.
I feel like it's, the site itself is a gateway position.
No, I absolutely agree, and it is.
This is not the highest and best value.
Not at all, but that's not,
That's another.
that's like the planning department.
I think that's a
failure.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think you're right. I think it's beside the point.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at where let's call it the former Howard Johnson's site.
Yeah.
Mm.
There you
I
go.
remember when it was Howard Johnson's.
There you go.
Right.
And I thought it was cool, a national landmark,
Right.
Yeah.
and they're long gone. Saltwater taffy and everything. Gone. The hotel's gone. They were going to build another thing. That's gone. Now it's a parking lot for cars. Just saying.
Yeah.
And to me, clearly they bought that for the one reason is that it's like playing Monopoly. I own it, so you can't own it, so you can't build on it. So another car dealership can't buy it, right?
Right.
Think about it.
Yeah.
I buy the first lot off of the Rotary, the first lot, and sit on it, let the weeds grow, park my cars there.
Yeah.
I mean, Greenfield doesn't have a need for 500 Suburbans, do we? No.
No.
So it's a strategic move
Yeah.
that I buy it so that the Hyundai dealership or the whatever dealership can't buy it and put their cars in front of my cars.
But see, this is where the town could
They don't need to
the
build
town,
anything.
The town could do something about that. I sat on licensing. You can't put cars on a lot without having the appropriate license.
Right.
Doesn't
Yeah.
work that way. If the town were serious about it, they would say, no, you can't put cars there. And licensing doesn't have to allow it.
Yeah.
We don't have a strategy, and we don't have a plan to do that.
They're saying they're gonna put a dealership.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Whatever. I'm only just because we're talking about the rug place and how it's a gateway.
Yeah.
And that's even more of a gateway, and
Yeah.
here it is full with.
We're not doing so great on the gateway.
We're not the gateway. Yeah. No. So.
Either end.
Right.
Yeah,
That's true.
Someone that's not familiar with Greenfield, you drive into town, you go, oh wow, it's just full of storage units and parked cars.
It's like
oh,
cars.
okay, nothing interesting here.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
Yes,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway. Nevertheless, if I go to tour the site, I'll let you guys know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do.
Absolutely.
Probably soon.
Good.
And I will find out about. We'll find out whether there's a permit going on.
So the other old business or new business, I'm not sure, was
Yeah.
Tim's request for thinking about a Peter Miller Award.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yes.
And Tim's not here, too bad, but I wondered if Bob Moorhead should be considered for his donate to his
Yeah.
writing of that little booklet.
Yeah. I mean, I think that when we started this award business, well, Peter Miller was still with us. There was already a lot of really good projects, and I have to go back a long time, right? So you remember when it was for Gary's Block, right on the corner, which is now whatever Catalpa Coffee or something like that.
Right.
Well, if you all remember what that was like,
Yeah.
15
It was
or what,
empty for a long,
able
long
to
time.
crap, and it was
Yeah.
empty, and all of that.
Yeah.
Right.
That, not that I'm saying this is the one or anything, but that was kind of the first one that got kind of done and got kind of done right a little bit.
Mhm.
So that was a project. I feel like the Allen Street School is pretty darn nice
Mm.
that
Mhm.
Zacchio did.
Yeah.
Hope and Olive Building or the
That'd be a good thing. You mean,
whatever it's called there. Yeah.
but you're saying they're too old now?
No, I'm not saying they're too old.
Oh, okay.
All I'm saying is before I get to Bob Moorhead, I feel like there's a lot of significant projects.
Actual brick and mortar.
Well, I
Correct. That people did long before we even had the award. That
I had
were
a thought today,
Right
which
direction.
is that, as we're getting close to the Winter Carnival, Christy Moore, because she's not objects but traditions. And she's kept these things going, these Greenfield traditions for, this is something Greenfield did for years. And if it wasn't for her, these things wouldn't keep going.
Yeah.
Instead of it being just an object.
Yeah,
I think there's some recognition there because
she definitely deserves recognition. Absolutely. Right? She's doing radio ads. I heard that today.
I'm just thinking in terms of things that are close to the fabric of the town.
I feel you.
That's a big piece of it.
I mean, I feel like she should get an award. Maybe not this award, personally, but I mean, I feel like I think about it more like when somebody's choosing to do a project when they're renovating something architecturally.
I think an award from a mayor, that's appropriate for I think for what Scott is saying, that's something more
From a mayor for a
from the
person.
mayor
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
kind of
True.
acknowledge,
True.
because it's not, it doesn't really fit with what we do, you know, in terms of historical. I mean, yes, tradition is fine, but I don't think of it as historical, you know.
Yeah, well, I get you. I mean, I see the connection.
Yeah.
And I see it, but I for me, it definitely is like, it's about, the physical landscape of the downtown areas, and I think, let's say, that Gary Block, Allen Street School, what was the old mix and match building, the Abercrombie building, geez, on Bank Row, that place is like, I remember going in there when it was just an empty shell. And the point for me is that we want to recognize and incentivize folks who kind of do it right.
Yeah.
When they went and they put that fake stone stuff on what used to be Taylor's Tavern,
Yep.
whoever those people are, do not and did not care, whoever they are, about the look of the town at all. Like, where'd you get that? Granite State stucco, and it's like it's totally bizarre.
Well, it's the same thing with that bank, TD Bank.
Yeah.
Is that facade sucks. It doesn't
Yes.
it doesn't blend with Greenfield at all. Especially when you look at the buildings, next to it.
Yeah.
That one sticks out like a sore thumb.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the pink was there.
Yeah.
I know.
Granite Gothic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so, all right. So, we talk about it. Tim's not here. Tim's gonna come back. You're like, how'd you guys do? Did you go over there? We're like,
Well,
what are we
There's
talking
no
about?
idea. But I think if you could pull out the list that came out, if we could pull out what came out before.
I think that's what we'll do.
Was,
Yeah. I really like the idea of maybe Mark Zacchio, because he's done.
We've done a lot of projects.
He's
You're talking about that 1980 one where the residential one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, over by Foster's.
Yeah.
Zacchio
Yeah.
did that.
Yeah.
the Allen Street. Well, I call it the Allen Street School. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's pretty darn nice.
Yeah.
I mean, it's darn. I remember going in when it was like a girls' club
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
Kind of in
That was
Oh, it was
no,
Center
it was Pierce
School.
Street. It was
The school.
Center
Center
School.
School started there.
wasn't the girls' club on Pierce Street?
Yeah, there's a girls'
Yeah.
club on Pierce
Girls
Street.
Club is in another school.
Yeah, they're on
okay.
the Pierce Street School.
Yeah.
Anyway, I would say
Right,
yeah,
Kaya?
Zacchio would probably be the
Is that
top
where Girls
choice.
Club is? Pierce Street? Yes.
Totally agree.
She's
Another
been there.
Yay!
And I think I think also because of Zacchio, because he didn't just do it once when
Right.
somebody was
True.
looking, because they
Right.
made him, or he got paid to do. He did it because it looks good. He cares about quality. It's authentic. He's not being driven by other people. He could do
He got
whatever.
tax credits, historic tax credits.
Yeah.
For it, so.
But he chooses to do he chooses to do
So
that.
what's
That's
better?
Yeah.
That's what they're for.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's done that on all of his projects. I really like that. Multiple projects.
He didn't get the armory, right?
No, that some couple bought that, didn't they?
Did they?
I didn't hear whether or not.
It was in the. It was in the paper. The trade property transfers.
Oh, yeah, yes,
it was
oh,
in
yeah,
Pittsburgh?
I think so.
Oh.
Pretty sure
that's right, that's right.
I thought it was one of those LLC names. or something.
it was like a LS. Maybe
Yeah.
that's what it was. I'll have to look at that.
MJ knows.
I'm sure she was on the news last night. Did you see that? Yeah, 10 o'clock news.
No.
Yeah,
For the downtown,
Yeah.
something or other. Parking
yeah.
or something. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Anyway.
Anyway,
Does anybody know what the purchaser's plans are for the Armory building?
right, that's what I wanted.
No, but when I email the mayor, I will ask because we are an interested party.
They have to do what?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully.
I had a question about the demolition permits and just something that I'm ignorant about. You know, when you read this document, it defines demolition as like even just removing part of a structure. Is like a demolition permit that you have to pull from the town, like if you wanted to, let's say the example we were talking about of the store on Main Street wants to remove the front and put up a new front. Do they have to get a demolition permit to that, or is it
No.
a building permit?
The answer is it's a vague definition. Let me give you an example. The Dunkin' Donuts over by the trail was leveled down to the ground under a renovation permit. No demolition permit was ever issued. So honestly, it can renovate if it depends on what somebody calls it.
Right. I mean,
Um,
essentially, they're right.
Demolition
They're
is included.
If you
demolishing
don't
it.
change, so if you didn't change the footprint of the
yeah.
building,
They're demolishing it.
you
and
might
then
be
somebody
able to
building
call it a
afterwards.
renovation.
Yeah.
So it's like the same.
Boy.
So a lot of the things that maybe this group would care about, let's say, you know, altering the front of a building on Main Street, would never come to us
No,
because of the type of permit.
no, but that's where
That's a good point.
where you have to do things like have design guidelines for a district.
It's
Yeah.
more in the
Okay,
planning.
now you're moving into the zoning.
Yeah.
You're moving more into the zoning territory where you can create a district, and then you can create design guidelines within a district. For example, in Main Street, if we wanted all of these storefronts to have the signs with the black and the gold like they used to be, that could be written into a design guideline for the central commercial district,
Hmm.
and it could be enforceable through permits.
Okay,
You
so
know,
it's
so
like a
you
planning
can't
department.
put up a psychedelic neon sign over your storefront. It could be done, but it is not,
Yeah,
as far
I think
as I know.
like Montague Turner's Falls has something like that. They have
Right.
like a historical industrial zone. So anything that like in like Industrial Revolution, early 20th century industry, late 19th century, like that's a zone, and there's those guidelines are like you can't change.
But the answer is it's done through zoning.
Yeah.
Okay, zoning.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
I'm thinking. I'm thinking we should have. It would be great to have Mark Snow come to the meeting.
Mark or Eric.
Yeah, I don't know if Eric would be, but yeah.
But I think at this point we need to have Mark here so he can understand the gist of what we're getting at in terms of trying to, things that he should be watching for.
Yeah, and really
Absolutely.
be helping us.
He's the last line of the last line.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Who knows? Is that it?
That's good. Don't have anything else, sir.
No. Yeah, I don't have anything else that I can think of.
Motion to adjourn.
So motion.
So
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.
Are you in favor?
Easy.
You in favor?
5:53.
being done with the meeting.